You know what, Byron? Living in South Africa is sort of a full-time job, not just in terms of like trying to work and make money and provide for your family. Like just surviving generally is a bit tougher here than in most other countries. But if you happen to be a farmer, it is even tougher than that because farm attacks are a real thing in South Africa. They are very frequent, they are very violent, and it's always a good news story when farmers are able to defend themselves. So, for the context of this video, there was some camera footage that was well, all over Twitter for the most part, about a farmer who did quite a lot of good things to defend himself and his life when he was attacked at his property. So we're going to go through that video and then we will give our comments on what went well and what could have been done better, I suppose. Anyway, here it is. So I'm just going to speed up to like 30 seconds. So top left, you can see the assailant arriving, and that is me shutting up for now. Is where it ends. And I just want to say, before we even start, my man, whoever you might be, congratulations. That was exceptionally well done. You defended your life against people who didn't have any inkling of taking it from you. And for that alone, a huge congratulations is in order. So, Byron, you watched the video as well. What are the key points we need to look at here?
Yeah, so we're going to get lots of people asking, who is this guy? What does he do? Where's he come from? And all of these things are actually kind of important for us to draw reference to because we're going to talk about what he did right and where it all kind of happened. And we're going to draw reference to some of the comments that we've said in the past on some other videos. First thing I want to say is this guy lives on a small holding outside of Johannesburg. So he lives 20 miles north of Johannesburg in a place called Camel Drift West. So how do I know this? Because the UK news picked it up. The Daily Mail even picked up this news, and AfriForum provided some additional stuff around it. So, what you can see happening there is that this individual is obviously approached while on his farm. What you can't see is that he's apparently in the house and comes out the house to his workshop, and that's where they come to get him. What you can't see is that he has a wife and 3 boys in the house. So the boys are all very young. They all look to be, I think his younger son is 6. The oldest is around 10. So they're very young kids. Now, obviously, remember, if this man goes out of commission, the family are now next. Okay, so it looks like, and according to him, he feels they went to go grab him in order to take him around the back and basically execute him. So that's basically the upshot of it. You can see they do take around a minute. They cautiously walk up to the house. They use a lot of shrubbery around the house. There's a lot of trees. They hide behind trees. They hide behind various things in the house, and then they kind of come through to try to get into the house. And this is not unheard of. So I suppose even before we start this, I'm going to say the first thing I'm going to say around this is to all of you who don't want to be a victim of crime, assess your house, right? You need to assess your house. Look, shrubs look nice. Trees look nice. You have a nice big bush outside. They look nice. but they highlight and they give people the ability somewhere to hide behind. They cause shadows. They give people the ability to evade not just your detection, but your neighbor can't see them. So the first thing I would say to everybody is look at your house objectively and look at all the things that you have in your house that gives the individual the ability to hide from your view. And if we showed you the full video at the start, what you would have been able to see is that there's a tree in the middle of the walkway. They first use that tree to hide behind. When you see them first emerge, they emerge from behind that tree. So for the purpose of the CCTV camera, you wouldn't have known that they were there until they were there. You couldn't have seen them approach. They were already too close to the house for you to do anything.
Yeah.
So that's my first comment, Ramon.
All right. And I agree with you. I think, the setting is very important. So you also, in some ways, you try to create choke points. So you create pathways of least resistance for people that are obviously the easiest for you to determine so that you can have a sense of where people are going to come from. The biggest problem with South African crime is the element of surprise, right?
Correct.
Assailants, suspects, murderers always have the element of surprise. If you can limit that as much as possible, you're going to go a lot further. But the number two, and the most important thing, mindset, my friends, mindset. You saw the video. What the farmer did was he was legitimately terrified. He wasn't acting by any means. And as they were trying to lead him away, what he did was grab the gun of one of the assailants and then shoot at them with the gun that was pointed at him in the first place. Very risky move, but it's all mindset, it's all adrenaline. He'd made that decision to protect his life and, most importantly, the life of his
His
family that
family.
were in the house next to him. A lot of people would cave, a lot of people would go with it, but the mindset is what saved him.
Okay, so there's a couple parts around the mindsets, and it's important that we highlight this. So these stats are coming from AfriForum directly. They're not my stats. I didn't make them up. If you want to moan at anybody about them, please moan at AfriForum. Okay, so AfriForum says in the last year, there were 395 farm attacks, which actually, if you take into account a country of our size, and the country of our size is big. And I think sometimes people misunderstand that. They look at crime in our country and they look at those figures and they go, wow, that's bad. Like, we got a pretty big land space. But with that being said, 395 farm attacks. It's still bad, and it's worth noting. Of those, only 59, and I say only, it's not every death is a bad thing, but only of those, 15% resulted in a murder. So there were 59 people that were murdered. So your chance of being murdered is 15%. Is that mean that the likelihood is you're going to get off scot-free? No. But a lot of this actually has to do with mindset around how you get free. Let me give you the alternative. This guy complies. He goes quietly. He just gives them what they want. So I'm going to use AfriForum's case, not mine. AfriForum highlights a case that happened in December last year in Mpumalanga. And he highlights around a farmer's family that were held hostage by people who wanted to break into their safe. Now, the family had a 6-year-old son. The son's name was Gideon. The son was apparently roasted in an oven alive so that they could force him to open the safe. Now, they eventually cooperated, and the son did get away from it. But that was not before the son suffered some pretty horrendous burns, if you will. So the reality is, despite only 15% of these attacks resulting in murders, there's a sizable amount of them that go through some severe trauma and some severe, how should we say, some severe actual physical injuries. So do not think for 1 second that your best bet is to cooperate. Now, here's where this man gets everything right. He recognizes it's a do or die. He could either be taken around back and clubbed over the head and left there to be unconscious while they rape his wife and pillage his house. Maybe they'll take him around the bank and they'll execute him. But he takes the opportunity because he realizes it's do or die. And that's what we mean by mindset. Your mindset should not be one of a sheep. If you see an opening, take it. It's much better for you to, and I'm not advocating this, but what I am saying is from my personal opinion, it's better to attempt to get away and fail and get knocked out than be led off like a sheep to a slaughter and executed around the back and do nothing. If you have an opportunity, your mindset should be self-preservation and preservation of your family. Your mindset should not just be to cooperate. And I'm very pleased to see this individual where he saw an opportunity, he took it, and he took it very clearly.
Yeah, no, you really did. So the result of what happened was there was a lot of blood following this incident, blood from one of the suspects, thankfully, not one of the farmers. We still don't know if the farmer himself had a firearm on him. It appears not because he took the firearm of the assailant. We
He
don't know.
took the revolver, yeah.
But one hopes that he has his own, and if he didn't carry it, that he would be carrying it in the first place. But we keep saying this the most important element of living in South Africa is the mindset of survival, of self defense, of preservation of life, preservation of what you want to achieve. It's much more difficult here than in most other countries. We don't have state protections to protect us from
Yeah,
the
but
worst
I
elements of
don't think
society.
but I don't think that's necessarily true just for South Africa, mate, because there's parts in the US where the police are like 3 hours away and they make it mandatory that you have a gun there because they know that the police cannot get to you in reasonable time. That happens. That's actually mandated in in some towns in the US.
No,
So to
that's
say
fair.
that like
But in South Africa, we
South
don't
Africa
have.
is unique in that.
But in South Africa, we don't have that policy of self-defense is legitimate. It's a real thing. It's a real defense. Don't
Mm,
get me wrong. But
of course.
there are the state has been so weakened purposefully that you are on your own, my friends. You are really on your
So
own.
and I would agree with that. And I suppose if we lose the case of Kyle Rittenhouse, you could also argue the same is occurring in the US. But with that being said, that's why I'm saying like it's important that you start with exactly what Ramon is saying. You need to start with the mind shift before this even occurs, which is why the first thing I've said to you is look at your house. It's good to see this guy has CCTV cameras because CCTV cameras gives you a good early warning indication of something occurring.
Yeah,
But also look around the surroundings. How is your house positioned? If you've got too much shrubbery around it, there's a lot of things for people to hide around. The second thing is, and I'm going to borrow Colin Noir's point on this, and that is the most powerful gun you have in your arsenal is the gun on you. It doesn't matter if you've got an RPG in the safe. If it's in the safe, it's in the safe. It's useless. If you've only got a small 2.2 handgun on you, that's the most powerful gun you have in that moment. And this is also another really good example. There are numerous instances of farm attacks that occur where the guns are in the safe. The farmer doesn't have it.
yeah,
So, as you very rightly pointed out, does this guy have a gun on him? Well, we don't know, but we certainly can't see that. But if he doesn't, the question I would have is one, why not? And two, where the hell was it? Was it in the safe? Because a gun in the safe is useless to you. There's no good going through all of the firearms licensing processes and then you leave the damn thing in the safe. Like, what good
yeah.
is it in the safe?
No, nothing.
Carry it on you, learn to live with it.
Another very important point: early warning systems. And the best thing to have
Absolutely.
is a Jack Russell or a Yorkie Terrier or a dog of some sort. Not a dog to
A
attack,
yapper.
just a yapper, a
Mm.
dog that just makes some damn noise. And for the life of you,
Yeah,
don't ignore when they make the noise, right? I didn't see any dogs here. I didn't
absolutely.
hear any dogs here. I don't know if he had dogs,
No.
but assuming there were dogs, they would have smelt the assailants or they would have seen the assailants a minute before anyone else. And and it's been shown, and I can't remember the stats, but the biggest reason criminals don't proceed with an attack is because dogs are yapping, because they are
Mm.
found out. Very important, especially in a rural farm area.
Now, for me personally, one of the things that I would definitely highlight, especially when looking at your surrounding. Now, we can't see this in this farm, and I doubt it's occurred. Do not place too much reliance on your electric fence. If you got an electric fence, therefore I'm safe, you're stupid. Okay, if you see a lot of like scabangas, sometimes they're carrying let's just call them blankets. You know, the kind of homeless blankets. Well, guess what those blankets do really nicely at? Going over a fence. I can get over the fence, no problem. I can raise a fence with a twig. I can put the twig under it and push it up and crawl through. Do not put too much emphasis on your electric fence. Do not put too much emphasis on your security camera or your security system if a door opens. The best defense that you could have in terms of security, get rid of the high walls, get rid of the electric fences, get garden beams or some kind of indicator so that if somebody's outside of the perimeter, it alerts you. Because once the person's in your garden, it gives you the opportunity to prepare in the house. If you're in the house and you know somebody's coming through the front door, you've got the opportunity to get your gun, pull it out, rack it, and wait. If you don't know where they are, and the first time you learn about them is when they're at the front door charging you. If you've ever watched any videos with police officers that are confronted, they always say the minimum space between me and an aggressor to be able to draw a gun, point it, and use it is a minimum of 20 meters. Now, if you know how far that is, that's far. Your house isn't that big. So you need the earliest warning indicator that you can have. Get garden beams. If the garden beams are too expensive for you, get a freaking dog that just makes a shitload of noise and get it there. And as Ramon rightly says, when the dog makes a noise, don't ignore it. Go investigate.
Yeah,
That's the best thing you can do, mate.
it is, and it's cheap and easy. Like I think this false security of high walls and electric fences. Electric fences are a nightmare. I took mine off because they're just annoying for the most part. And also, just in terms of space, if I remember correctly, Byron, if I'm wrong, the average person can cross or can move 10 meters in 1 second. Is that correct?
It's pretty. The average person can get to you very quickly. So they say this: the time for a person to get to you with 20 meters is less than 2 seconds.
Exactly. And in that
So
20,
that draw space
yeah,
when we're talking like this,
yeah,
it's like you got like 2 seconds maximum.
yeah,
Okay,
and
that's really not a lot of
it's
time.
not,
If
and
you
that's where the
tried
training
quick
comes
draw,
in. Yeah. But what I'm
it's
saying
correct.
is,
You won't have the space.
by the time they're already at your front door, it's too late. That's the essential
Absolutely,
element. That's the essential lesson.
that's what we're
You
saying.
need to know about them
100%.
when they're not at the front door, way before the front door.
Absolutely, absolutely. And having that firearm in the safe when you think, okay, now let's just use the analogy. You've got garden beams. The alarm's gone off. You can check on the security cameras. The guy's coming towards the front window. If you think, well, I got time to go to the safe, unlock the safe, pull the gun out, rack the gun, get myself composed, you're living in a world of cuckoo. If you have a firearm, have it on you. It's the best advice we can give you. If you have any form of weapon system, carry it on you. The most powerful gun you have in your arsenal is the gun you carry on you.
Yeah,
It is not the gun in the safe. If you're carrying a .22 handgun and you've got an AR-15 in the safe, the AR-15 is useless because it's in the safe. The most powerful gun is that 22. So it's great. It's great to see this guy use good mindset. He didn't cave. He saw an opening. He grabbed the opening and he used his ability to defend himself. It was also lovely to see that flight reflex, where the first was he was frightened, but then he fought. That shift occurred like that, and where he shift from being a victim to an aggressor, he really kind of used that.
super
The
important.
one comment I would give, only the one comment that I suppose I would give as a final, is be very careful of once you are no longer a part of the, let's call it the victim point, don't go after the person. Okay, that is the one thing I will criticize this guy for. He manages, they run off, he shoots at them, but he actually chases after them.
Yeah,
And I would criticize him for that for two reasons. My first reason is because you don't know what's waiting for you. You don't know if there's another 6 guys behind the bush and they lead you into a trap. Where the threat is ended and they leave, let them go. They're no longer your problem. Your number one concern should be your own safety. And where they broke with him, he could shoot at them when they run off. If I were him, I would have jumped in the house and locked the door. Okay, then called security or something, right? But be careful chasing them because you don't know if they lead you into a trap. The second reason is the legal reason. And that is once your life is no longer in danger, if you pursue the individual and you end up harming somebody, you could be held in in a legal difficulty because you're
Yeah,
no longer acting in self-defense.
that's right.
So just be very careful of that.
Yeah, I mean, courts are aware of adrenaline and things like that, but just don't make it too easy
Yes,
for them to try to persecute you. But I mean, the essential elements.
absolutely.
This guy did everything right. If he had a dog or
Correct.
early warning system, he would have been
Would have
much
been
better
better.
prepared. And that's essentially what you
Correct.
need to know from this dissection. I hope you enjoy that. We're not legal enforcement people. We're not okay. We are lawyers, but not in this
Well, I
particular
am.
regard. Yeah, he's a
I'm a lawyer, and I'm Surah, so
yeah.
I am.
I'm
You're
a
not.
lawyer as well, but this is not sort of legal advice. This is just practical advice for
No,
living in South Africa.
this is just us reviewing a video.
Exactly.
And as a security individual, I've seen a lot of, you know, I've seen a lot of this stuff too. So I kind of, you know, it's interesting to actually see like a lot of the crimes that occur usually occur in people's premises. They have electric fences because they think that gives them all the security in the world. They're usually people that hide behind a bush or a high wall. Be very careful of that. And you know what? Like a lot of the, and we say this on this channel a lot. If you don't have a gun, get a gun. But you know, it's like actually quite a lot of these times, and you see it in farm attacks quite a lot. They do have a gun. It's just not on them. It's in the safe. So it's kind of like make sure you have that. Like if you have a gun, keep it on you. The most powerful gun you have is the gun that's on you. And thank you, Colon. I stole that from you, so that's all yours. But
Right. And before
that's
we
my
go,
comments, bro.
this is a very long video. Before we go, people will be like, oh, it just sounds like an awful lot of hard work. Like always tense, always carrying. It's uncomfortable. It's a heightened sense of anxiety. No, my friend, it's called preparedness. South Africa is a chaotic, unpredictable place. You either have the mindset of preparedness, or you might become a victim of crime. So instead of having this anxiety mindset, it's a preparedness mindset. Discipline equals freedom, as Jocko Willink says. Discipline is making sure you can defend yourself, what strategies you use, like carrying a gun, early warning system, light everywhere, that sort of stuff. Your mind's actually much more at ease when you have those things. As soon as I got
Because
my
you
gun
know.
license, my stress levels like decreased so much. I know how to use it. It's always on me. My house is geared up for any potential thing, and I know exactly what to do in that scenario. And I've been training with it for as long as I
Mm.
can remember. My anxiety levels are lower now than before I had a gun.
Now, the one thing I would say there, and I know we're going to get these comments. Oh, I hate living in South Africa because you have to carry a gun and everything's scary and blah blah blah. Okay, but I'm going to say two things to you. Number one is, yeah, it sucks carrying a gun, huh? Because you have to be responsible for your own safety. I mean, who wants to do that, right? I mean, be responsible for yourself. But to quote the founding fathers, he who gives up some of their liberty for the sake of their own safety is a person that ends up with neither liberty nor safety.
Yeah,
So in South Africa, we have to be prepared because if you want to be free, look after yourself. You cannot outsource your personal safety. That's my first thing. The second thing is be thankful that you can. In many countries around the world, you cannot even take responsibility for your own safety. So you have no option but to be a victim of crime. And a good example of this is in the UK. You're not allowed to carry knives. You're not allowed to carry pepper spray. You're not allowed to carry anything. The social compact here says we live in a polite society, so you don't need those things, which is great and fine until somebody ignores the social compact and comes to stab you with a knife. Now you have no option but to rely on someone else for your safety. Now, I don't know about you, Ramon, but for me, I would much rather be responsible and have control over my own safety than rely on somebody else that might not even come. We saw this in Texas, where some of those armed officers, when they rocked up to that mass shooting, they didn't go in the school, mate, because like, why were they going to put themselves at harm's way? Yeah, there was a shooter there and he was killing kids, but they weren't going to put themselves at risk. So to allow your own personal safety to be outsourced to another, for me personally, is self-defeating. So
yeah,
yeah, you might go, oh well, South Africa, scary, scary, whatever. Like it's just we're just saying take some responsibility for your own safety. That's it.
that's it. Thank you, Byron. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Long video. Let us know if you like these long videos, and most importantly, if you like the dissection of these videos that come across our desk. If you do, we will do them a lot more often. Have a good one. Cheers, cheers.
Thanks.